All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sally Zaleski. I'm the Executive Office Manager with South Carolina Citizens for Life. And I'd like to welcome you to yet another one of our weekly live interview sessions in our Proudly Pro-Life webcast. Today we have Padgett Mozingo. She is a consultant with Padgett Communications, and she's mom to Lila. And Lila is limitless, and Padgett's going to talk to us about how limitless Lila is, and she's also going to talk to us about adverse prenatal diagnoses today. So our Executive Director, Holly Gatling, is going to be kicking off the interview today with Padgett, and we welcome you to send your questions to info@stlife.org. And without further ado, Holly.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to SCCL Proudly Pro-Life webcast. This is what we've been doing. This is something new that we've been developing, and it's been a lot of fun. And I am just thrilled to have Padgett Mozingo, known to me as Padgett for many, many years. As many of you know, I was a newspaper reporter for part of my life, 20 years of my life. And when I was the PD bureau chief with an office in Florence, Padgett was one of my interns. And so I am extremely proud of her and all of the things that she's accomplished in her life with her journalism degree, just like my journalism degree. One of the things most recently that she's done for the South Carolina Citizens for Life is she has helped us redesign our, let me see, am I holding this right?
It looks great. It looks great.
Yeah, redesign our brochure for the office, and it's just amazing. So let me see. There we go. I'm sorry, I'm not good at this. Anyway, so I've actually known Padgett since she was in high school, and so I've seen her grow up and have children and be faced with this the situation that no parents want to be faced with, an adverse prenatal diagnosis. So Padgett, I want you to, start from the beginning and explain how you were pressured, the pressure that was put on you and Mark, your husband, because of an adverse prenatal diagnosis. And I'll just say in advance how wrong everybody was about that.
Yeah, well, anybody who has had the pleasure of meeting Lila or seeing Lila now would certainly know that she has an incredibly high quality of life and certainly lives each day to the fullest. And so it breaks my heart to think that, she might not have been delivered and been a part of our world. We had, I was pregnant later in life. Life doesn't ever go the way you plan when you're in high school and you have those big dreams of how you map out your life. And I'm certainly a good example of how, despite the best laid plans, others and God have a way of directing you in other ways. And so I just found myself to be, at a later age in life and very happy to be pregnant with Mark after going through a bad divorce and having my son, who is an incredible blessing. But the same situation, here we are going through a pregnancy, and I am older, so I'm having heartburn and lots of fun things that people deal with when they're pregnant. But we pretty much made the decision that we were thankful and blessed to be pregnant. And so, we didn't do a lot of the invasive pregnancy, the tests that could be done during that pregnancy, because we didn't really want to know what obstacles might be there, because we weren't going to change the course of our pregnancy. We were just happy to be welcoming a baby into the world. And so, when you're going through those things and it's a happy time, we're excited. Mark's having his first child. We're just thrilled to be on that path. And so there were a couple of, when we did the initial screening, which we went ahead and did just based on my age, I think it was 2 out of 30 markers indicated that there might be a problem. One of those was a small hole in the baby's heart, but we were quickly told that it was most likely based on what was seen, it could easily be a situation that it would cure itself in utero, correct itself in utero. And so we went for a routine ultrasound about 3 months out from my due date. Showed up at 8 o'clock in the morning, really expecting to go about our day, go back to work, and instead spent the entire morning in the course of ultrasound, then finding out that the heart defect was actually an AV canal defect, which would mean at this stage of the game, all that really meant to me was she had to have open heart surgery to survive. But as we went through the next hour and waited insurance authorization for tests and that sort of thing, the techs advised us that that condition was very prevalent with Down syndrome. So it was quickly learning that not only would the baby have a heart defect, but most likely she would have, and we found out she was a she, we found out we had a baby girl, that most likely she had Down syndrome too. So based on the course of an incredible doctor in that situation, he really just encouraged us and explained to us that, you know, we're in Columbia, heart surgery has to be done in Charleston. You don't want to deliver a baby that has to be medevaced. You want to make sure the people taking care of you are prepared to take care of what's needed. And so Dr. Gregg was incredibly wonderful in that situation and the people serving us that day. So we spent, instead of a 30-minute ultrasound, we spent about 4.5 hours in the course of going through the additional testing and testing that it was invasive and that I had declined honestly beforehand because I'd had miscarriages. And you know, I've learned in life, if it might be 1 to 5% it's going to happen, then I can typically be that 1 to 5% is what I found in life. So we just weren't willing to take any additional risks for something when we weren't going to change the course of what we were doing. But with Dr. Gregg's encouragement and why he encouraged us to do it, just from a preparation perspective and being sure that we could do everything we needed to make sure our little girl could survive and thrive at birth, we did do that testing. So we spent 4.5 hours with him. We then met with a pediatric cardiologist. This is the Friday before Martin Luther King weekend that year. So it's Friday before holiday weekend, which meant we'd have to wait a little bit longer for test results. So we spent the weekend that we were gonna spend fixing up the nursery, just kind of, you know, just adjusting to what the news that we had heard and really just kind of mourning what we thought our journey was going to be. And just all the unknowns, what we didn't know at the time. And so fast forward to the middle of the next week when the test results came back and did show that the baby would have Down syndrome. So we had that Wednesday morning, we spent almost 3 hours in a meeting with our genetics counselor, who was remarkable. She's still a part of our life today. She sent Lila a birthday card. Lila turned 9 yesterday on Saturday. And, you know, we got a birthday card from Miss Peggy. She's incredible. But she was remarkable because we spent, like I said, it must have been close to 3 hours just talking to her and asking her all the questions that only God can really answer. We didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't our fault. I couldn't have done anything differently as a mom to prevent it from happening. We don't know why it happened. You know, a variety of ifs and questions and concerns and fears and tears. And then we left that appointment and went across the hall to my OB and were met with a different approach, just much more of a medical, just a very medical hard approach about the realities of what our child would face based on quality of life, based on assumptions about mobility and communication skills, all of which are just assumed based on the diagnosis of Down syndrome. Also, a lot of information shared about why the specifics. We happen to be at 23 and a half in our pregnancy. So we were right at the point where termination would be illegal after another 2 days. And this particular doctor let us know that she was off that Friday. So she encouraged us to go ahead and make some decisions and think in terms of whether we wanted to continue the pregnancy and why we probably didn't want to continue the pregnancy, which largely was quality of life. We were told that she would not have any quality of life, mobility would be an issue, communication skills would be an issue. And, you know, there was not any level of encouragement to keep going. It was all focused on how we could take the next step and terminate our pregnancy and kind of move on from there. And needless to say,
let me interrupt you just how did that make you feel? How did that make you and Mark feel?
I don't think that either of us, even now when we both talk about it and try to determine if we're accurately remembering what we said, if we said anything, what he and I both remember is that neither of us said anything. We just, we were too in shock to know what to say, because we had the weekend to process that we were going down a different journey, but we never anticipated ending the journey. And so to be sitting in front of a medical professional and all of a sudden have a completely different path, almost dictated, not entirely dictated, but it was strongly encouraged that the quality of life would be in question of our child. And
I call that pressure. I call that pressure.
Yeah. And again, you know, it's funny when Mark and I talk about it now, because I'd love to have had a video of what actually our reactions were and if we're accurately remembering. But the answer was, when we didn't have an answer, was, well, it looks like y'all need to think about it, take an hour and go take a ride and come back. And so I honestly do not think that he and I said anything to us, her, anything at all. We walked back out into the hallway and thankfully just kind of stood there for a few minutes, because we didn't know what we were going to do now. It'd take an hour. What are we going to do in an hour that's going to, I don't know how we're going to even process what you just told us in an hour. So, but thankfully we standing in the middle of the hallway and the elevator opens, and there was that genetics counselor again. And she came out and she connected us to another parent, gave us some information about how we could be connected to another parent that had an older child with Down syndrome. And so we finally left and went and sat in the car and just kind of started thinking about what we could do, or if there was anybody we could call. And Mark actually picked up the phone and called the parent that we had been given a contact information from was a father, and he had an older teenage son. And so Mark picked up the phone and called him, and he was wonderful. He spoke to us quickly, but he quickly said, I've got to go right now because I've got to go do something for my son. I think his son was going to play baseball or softball or something. And he said, but, you know, this is my cell number. I'll get, you know, call me anytime. We'll get back in touch. We'll meet. So, but what struck me is the things that he had told us about his son in that conversation. It sounded like his son was having a pretty typical life. He was a teenager with Down syndrome, but he wasn't in a closet. He wasn't in a corner at home. You know, he was out engaged and taking care of him as a parent. And so we spent a little bit of time, and then we just went back in and said, this is our decision. We're going forward with this. And then thankfully, as life would have it and God would plan it out for us, the doctor who had been a part of our original testing that day was actually the medical professional on call with a resident who delivered Lila. So we were very blessed in that course, because he was there. He encouraged actually, Garrett had to be a C-section after a long labor. And with everything we knew that was going on with Lila, he encouraged us to actually try to have her without having a C-section, because we were right across the hall from an OR if anything went wrong. And, you know, now this day and time, many times it's C-section immediately pushed, or then quickly another C-section if you've already had one. And thankfully, because of that medical professional's care and expertise, we were able to have her. It was a fairly quick, once the process of labor started, it went fairly quickly. And that certainly helped her from the perspective, she already was having some breathing issues and oxygen issues, but being able to be born through the birth canal actually helped that process. And I think made her entry into the world much easier for her and for me, because she then ended up being in the NICU for an extended period of time with extended surgeries. And so both my recovery and her entry into the world were positioned in a way so that we were both best prepared for what was happening in those days when we needed quality medical care.
So now, fast forward, tell us all the things that Lila does, and especially how well she's done in Montessori education.
Well, I think the it's actually hard to tell you. I wish I could just show you, or if anybody out there is interested, I would encourage you to go to limitlesslila.com or find Limitless Lila on Facebook, because I can't give you in words an accurate description of how full of life that little girl is. And as I mentioned, she just turned 9 on Saturday. She has the developmental and education skills of about a 6 or 7-year-old right now, but she has incredible speech. She's very mobile. She runs, she plays ball. She loves playing bubbles. She loves learning and music and dancing. One of the things—
And the Gamecocks, she loves the Gamecocks.
Yes, she loves the Gamecocks.
She loves the Gamecocks.
And we've been very fortunate. One of the things, because of the extensive surgeries that she's had at Children's Hospital, because we knew about the heart surgery, but she actually was in Children's Hospital here in Columbia for almost 3 months, had 5 major surgeries. She had emergency surgery on day 3 for a malrotation of her intestine. And we could have lost her then. And then she had several other surgeries, and we had experiences where she coded in front of us and that sort of thing. So we went through, we all went through a lot to get her healthy enough to go have heart surgery at 6 months. But then that heart surgery that we worried about and prayed about for 3 months, literally an open heart surgery on a 6-month-old baby, she checked in on Monday morning and went home on Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock. So what we had been put out there as one of the reasons why, you know, her quality of life would be so poor took 5 days. And you know, it's just insane to think that that and Down syndrome alone were reasons justifying enough to terminate my pregnancy with her. And she is just a bundle of life. She enjoys everything around her. She's never met a stranger. She is happy. I think that one of the best things that is a good description for all of us as we participate each year in the dance marathon that the USC students do at the University of South Carolina, where they raise money, and they've raised over $1 million the past 2 years for Children's Hospital to do things for the Child Life program, which was instrumental to us because remember, Lila came into our lives, but we already had a 7-year-old little boy. And when you have a child that's in the NICU, the siblings don't get to visit the NICU, so they don't get to meet. So, you know, he's had this little sister he's been waiting to meet, who he understands as a 7-year-old has a broken heart that's gonna have to get fixed. But he doesn't get to see her. He doesn't get to meet her. He doesn't get to visit her. He doesn't get his worries assured that she's okay. So the Child Life program is there. They made a scrapbook for him. They took pictures. They met with him in the, you know, areas of the hospital so that he could understand the treatments that she was going through. It's an instrumental program for the whole family. And one of the reasons that we participate in that program at USC is Lila, since she was 3 years old, has been getting on the stage in the gym with upwards of either 2,000 to 2,500 college students dancing in the entire gym. And she's on the stage, not afraid, initially afraid a little bit, but she's up there batting the balloon around, throwing, taking the microphone and speaking, dancing with Cocky. You know, she's really enjoying it and is the life of the party and has 2,000 playmates out there. For us, we do it for a variety of reasons. It gives us an opportunity to let a large majority of those students we know have never had a meaningful encounter with someone with Down syndrome. They've never had the opportunity to see for themselves the quality of life that Lila has. And so we do it to dispel the myths and the assumptions that people make about Down syndrome, but selfishly we do it because the other miracle children have issues like leukemia or brain tumors or things that are much, much, much graver than Down syndrome. So, you know, we have a lot to be thankful for. So selfishly, it's our way to go and celebrate our journey and help people understand more about our daughter, but also to just remind ourselves that we're incredibly blessed and have a lot to be thankful for.
Now, tell us about this organization that you founded, Limitless Lila, right?
It's Limitless Purpose.
Limitless Purpose, there you go.
We started
Limitless Lila.
That's right. We started early on, and Mark and I laugh when we start trying to figure it out, but I think it was even before she took her first breath, is that people were always quick to tell us how sorry they were. Not everybody, but a lot of people. were quick to tell us how sorry they were about what we were experiencing or that our child would have Down syndrome. And we were always told what limits we should expect with her. From that very first appointment, where there'd be a limited quality of life all the way up to limited careers, limited options. And Mark would tell you about thinking about, you know, all of a sudden the thoughts that a dad has of walking a daughter down the aisle when she gets married or college graduation, that all those things just evaporated. They went away. And so it took us some time to believe in our hearts that if we believed that she was limitless and we stopped allowing other people's assumptions to be how we viewed her, that who knew what would happen? I mean, we could view her the same way we view our son, who's a genius, who wants to be an aerospace engineer and will do whatever he wants to do. If we viewed her the same way, in that same limitless perspective, then she could do anything she chose to do. And that's been our mantra with her, just like it is with him. And so the beautiful thing about that is once her first 2 years were a lot of medical challenges, a lot of developmental challenges. She was behind on things like walking, and because of all those surgeries, you know, even being able to drink from a bottle or a cup, you know, things that basic life skills. But once we got through the first 2 years of her life, we really have been focusing more on helping her excel and soar. But what we have found is that the systems and services out there that are supposed to be helping her are really have much more of that mindset that my doctor had, that it's the same old school way of treating her, looking at her, viewing her opportunities. And so we've had to work really hard to make sure that she is included in social and academic areas, to the point that we pulled her from public school and are paid for her to go to a Montessori school where she's fully included and has thrived. And that's what we decided in the last year, that if we're facing these obstacles with our daughter, people who are engaged and understand and know the resources that are out there, that are services that are available, then the families who don't know those things and don't have the support system and the folks who rally around them and love their child, then they really are lost. I mean, they really are feeling more of what we felt in those early days. And so Limitless Purpose is a new nonprofit. It was created in the fall and is official as of February with the IRS. And its intent is to provide resources and opportunities for children to reach their limitless potential. And our hope is 15 years down the road, families like ours won't be fighting for inclusion. So we know that there'll still be children who need, whether they're in the foster care system or are just don't have adequate resources for learning. There'll still be a need for this organization. So initially it's inspired by one little girl with special needs and different learning abilities who deserves the world, but it's aimed at making sure that every child has the opportunity to learn and thrive and soar, just like every child deserves.
Well, it's a remarkable story, Padgett, and I'm so proud of you. And I'm so grateful that I've been able to follow your remarkable life for so long. Also, I want to give you a chance just to talk a little bit about your consulting, the work that you do, and say, you know, how pleased we've been. Let me see if I can hold this up with, did I do it right?
Yes,
You know, with the redesign of our brochure, which we're extremely pleased with. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about your consulting business.
Well, I've had the blessing really of being involved in several nonprofit organizations that have been able to really make an impact on our community. And I now know that all of that was really positioning me down a course to be prepared to help other people on this journey and to be strong enough to have the skills and the flexibility to stand up for our family and our daughter when needed. That's been the biggest obstacle in life for me sometimes, is you don't realize how strong you can be until you have to be, and you're faced with things that might break some people, but you just realize that your children deserve it, and you're going to do what you have to do to make sure that they have what they need. And so I believe that everything along the way has really positioned me to do that, right from the early days of learning how to write and position a story and craft a message so that I can tell Lila's story now. And honestly, so that I can teach her and Garrett to be able to share their story as they age and when we're no longer around, so that they can keep changing the world. But I had the incredible benefit of working for the South Carolina Bar and then working for the Richland Library through rebranding and through the bond referendum, which resulted in this incredible library system that we have now. I left there and spent a couple years working for Family Connection, which is an organization that gets federal funding to provide support and information and services to families like ours. But that was really the crux of what drove us in the last year to make some changes, is because the entire time that I worked at Family Connection is when we had this battle in trying to get Lila in inclusive education. And so if we can't get it, when I referenced, if Mark and I can't get what we know we're entitled to for our daughter, if I can't get it as an employee of the agency at the bottom of the IEP form when I'm sitting in the education meetings, then the parent who doesn't understand that that organization even exists or what their rights are through that organization doesn't stand a chance. That's really what drove me to leave, to open Padgett Communications so that I can make some choices on working with organizations that I believe make a difference in the community and are aligned with my values as a mom and as a wife and as a family member. And so that's the justification behind Padgett Communications. And then candidly, we just have been blessed in the past year that when I left that organization, Town Theater jumped right on the Limitless Purpose, Limitless Lila concept last summer. They were hosting Matilda was their summer show, and Lila was a focus of that and a beneficiary of that, which then led us to have the money we needed to file the paperwork for Limitless Purpose to become a 501c3. Because
it was a great show.
It really is. Anybody that knows the story behind Matilda, you know that Matilda needed a teacher who would believe in her and who would know that she could, that her different approach to learning and her different talents were different, but not bad. And that she just needed somebody to believe in her. And that's really what Lila's story has been. We just need somebody to believe that Lila can do things. We need people to not sell her short or not look at her and assume that she can't just because you see that she has some features that are different. Or like I said, she turned 9, but she's more along the lines of a 6 to 7-year-old when we're working on things from an education perspective. It doesn't mean she can't read. She's just not reading like a 9-year-old right now. That doesn't mean she won't one day if we try and if we push her and if we give her opportunities. It just means she's learning it differently.
One of my favorite videos of her that you put on Facebook was the hello in 9 languages or seven languages, the song that her class was singing. And go ahead.
She nailed it. She knew it exactly, from motions to words across the board.
That's right. She had every movement. She had every word. She didn't miss a beat. It was just amazing. And that's the meaning of Limitless Lila. She was saying hello in 7 different languages. I can't do that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the beauty of that song is all about too, that children, it's kind of like, children are children. They have that universal language of play and smile. And that's really what the Montessori method is all about. And that's why it's been such a great, it's been a blessing that we found that opportunity for her so that we can try to play catch up and get her to a point where we can make up what we missed in those earlier years and see exactly what her potential is. But the beauty last year on March 21st, we took her to the State House because it was World Down Syndrome Day, because she has 3 copies of her 21st chromosome. She marched right into Nathan Ballantyne. He's our representative in the House. She had a seat at his table with his legislative aide and gave them tokens of hope that she makes at the Mad Platter, a pottery studio here in town. She handed cards that said she wanted to reach her full potential, just like her big brother. She took a seat in the House and just started typing on the computer. She just made her presence known. And so before COVID-19 this year, the wonderful thing was that on March 21st of this year, 1 year to the date of that visit to the State House, we were planning to have the official opening celebration event for Limitless Purpose at Leo's Landing, which is an inclusive playground here at Saluda Shoals Park in Columbia. That had to be delayed and now will be held on June 6th. But it's because of Lila's, because of her quality of life and because of her fearless way that she takes each day and each person she encounters as, I mean, she took over the State House that day. And, you know, so because of that, the WIS resulted and the Town Theater Project, and then the folks at the South Carolina Bar stepping up and connecting us to the Law School Nonprofit Clinic, who was responsible for the paperwork that got the 501c3 secured. You know, all of that is God's way of making this happen in the last year and happening quickly so that we can help other families and tell a bigger story. And, you know, a big part of what the organization will do is to provide opportunities, funding for opportunities. We were set this summer to give away at least $500 summer incentives to families who, like us, have a child that needs a tutor or some additional help over the summer to make sure, you know, all children lose learning depth in the summer. They regress tremendously as the summer slide. But if a child with a disability, particularly on the heels of this COVID-19, learning at home, no supports in IEP process, those things, you know, our children really do thrive on routine and they need those added supports to make sure that they don't lose any ground. And so that was one of the projects we were planning to announce on March 21st. Our committee now is looking at how we're going to award that money, because we do have that money to award for the summer. We just might be awarding it, you know, the opportunities for families are going to look different this summer than what we were originally planning from. It might have been an assistant to go with a child to a summer camp so that they could have an inclusive opportunity at a summer camp when a parent's not able to do that, or a reading tutor or a math tutor, something that would put them into a regular learning opportunity over the summer to kind of reinforce that growth and development so that they wouldn't have a summer slide or as much of a summer slide. So our committee now is looking at how to make that happen this summer. And the kickoff event, if all goes well with reopening, and will be June 6th at 10 o'clock at Leo's Landing at Saluda Shoals. So we would want to encourage everybody to come out and learn more about Limitless Purpose, and we'll have vendors on site and a lot of fun.
And what time?
It's 10 o'clock in the morning till noon.
Okay. And once more, Padgett, what is the website where people can go for more information?
If you look up limitlesspurpose.org, and that will also direct you to limitlesslila.com, where you can just read more about Lila herself. But again, this is a story about one little girl and an inspiration of one little girl, but it's inspiring a much bigger effort to make sure that every child has the opportunities and resources that they deserve to thrive regardless of their circumstances.
Well, Padgett, I can't thank you enough for being on this program. And also, thanks to Sally, we have this program. That it was her idea, and her technical skills make it possible. So thank you so much. And it will be posted. These interviews are posted on our website, sclife.org. So anybody can go on the website and see this interview, Padgett. So I want to thank you so much, and look forward to seeing you on June 6th, right?
Yes, 10 o'clock, June 6th. Be there.
Yeah, be there. All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Well,
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Padgett, and thank you everyone who has joined us this afternoon. If you still have questions for Padgett, please feel free to email them to info@sclife.org. If you have friends and family that are on Facebook and missed today's live interview, it will be emailed out. Just keep an eye on your email. If you're not subscribed to our email tree, please go to our website at sclife.org. And there you can subscribe to receive our emails and regular updates about things that are happening at South Carolina Citizens for Life. So until next time, thank you again, Padgett, and please thank Lila for all her great work too. Thank you, Holly, and have a great day, everyone.
Okay, until next Monday.
Until next Monday.